by the great the flames. You're the face of the future, the blood in my veins. Oh, ooh, the blood in my veins. Oh, ooh. But they never did, ever lived, ebbing and flowing, inhibited, limited, till it broke up when it rained down. It rained down like.
Good morning, everyone. Are we going to get started? Sounds good. I'm hearing the music stuff. So. All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Charlene Duzick. I am one of two co-chairs for this year for our alumni network. Very excited to be here. I graduated from College of the Canyons back in 2001. And through that course of time have been very proactive in the community, currently serving as the Member Services Director at Henry Mayo Fitness and Health. And today we are very, very excited to provide you with a wonderful opportunity for you to be connected to our alumni. And that is primarily our sole purpose, is really to give you that opportunity to see kind of where our alumni went, connecting them and moving forward. So with that said, I want to welcome you. I want to thank you for joining in. And today I am actually going to turn over this wonderful event because this vision came from one of our own current students and also one of our associate student governments, which I used to serve on too. So I'm very excited. And Jamal, I'm actually going to turn over this wonderful, fantastic meeting to you.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much, Charlene, for such a beautiful introduction. But I would like to say that before we start, this event is being recorded. So even if you missed a portion of it, it will be uploaded on our ASG events page soon after the session. More details will be posted on our ASG social media, so feel free to check it out. In an effort to be courteous of all panelists' time, we will have a timer. So when you hear a particular sound, please wrap up your final thought. Also, as you can tell, when you enter into this Zoom session, you will be automatically muted. So please note that this is an informational session. To our audience members, please utilize the chat to ask questions and we will answer them at the end of the session. If the questions are for a certain panelist, please let us know in the chat. To our panelists, please unmute yourself when it is your turn to speak. I will be introducing you, so just make sure you're unmuted. If you're representing a ICC, representing a club to earn ICC points, please input your club's name into the chat. For our student attendees, please input your email address so that we can send you your $6 Fandango promo code. Thank you to all of our alumni and thank you to the foundation for making our event possible. We appreciate your ongoing support. Okay, to start things off, I'm introducing Dr. Stacie Gereb first. She's been a general pediatrician for over 20 years and is currently working at Kaiser Permanente. She grew up in Valencia, graduating from Hart High School in 1984, ranking number 4 in her class. She started attending COC classes in high school. By the time she started attending, she had 20 units accumulated. She transferred to UC Irvine and graduated in 1988. She graduated from medical school at Western University of Health Sciences. She completed her residency at Children's Hospital, Los Angeles in 1997. She currently lives in Newhall with her husband and 9-year-old twins. I'd just like to ask you, Dr. Stacie Gereb, what drove you to your designated profession and what roadblocks did you encounter along the way?
If you ask my mom, she said I wanted to be a doctor since like junior high. I can go back to high school And my husband says I put the capital A in anal retentive, and I was very driven early on and had a goal and just kept going. Like I said, I was number 4 in my class, and I got a lot of grief from my counselors and people at high school, because I had people going to Stanford and UCLA and UCI and all these other places. And I, my parents couldn't afford to send me there. So I got to go to COC. And for me, that was an amazing decision. It made my GPA higher, which made my entrance into medical school easier. And it got me into UC Irvine and for my undergrad work. And by the time I got there, I only had 2 years to finish everything up. So there was roadblocks in that. I took different pathways to get there. And I am an osteopathic doctor, which is a little bit different than the MD. I have a DO after my name. And so that was a little bit of a roadblock as well, trying to figure out what osteopathy was growing up in California. And again, for me, that's been a great career choice. And I've done private practice, and I've worked now for Kaiser for over, 15 years. So I think it's just really knowing what you want in your life and continue to follow that big goal and see the forest, the trees, and see, just follow that pathway. There might be a road that goes this way, but you may end up back on the same curve.
Wow, I just have to say thank you for sharing that. I don't even know if I can ever learn how to say the word osteo the correct way, as you can see. But I think that's going to be very helpful, and it's always good to hear about success and challenges. Our next panelist is William Harwood. While at College of the Canyons, William spent most of his time studying in Mesa. He worked with high school and junior high school students exploring the fundamentals of flight during a NASA-sponsored summer camp. He graduated in 2013 with an associate's degree of science and mathematics. From there, he went to the Georgia Institute of Technology, where he graduated with a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering. While at Georgia Tech, he was a member and eventually presided over the largest student-run makerspace in the United States, the Invention Studio. It was there he cut his teeth in small-scale manufacturing. He continues to encourage making by sitting on the COC Makerspace Advisory Committee. After graduating from Georgia Tech, William moved back to Santa Clarita and began working with a small Pasadena-based startup company working in the renewable energy sector. In this role, he and his colleagues designed the first commercially viable roof-mounted 2-axis solar tracker. After working through the stresses of pushing his early designs to low-rate initial production, William returned to prototyping when he accepted a position with the world-renowned Lockheed Sunk Works. At Lockheed, he runs an additive manufacturing laboratory that supports the development of wind tunnel models of the next generation of high-performance aircraft. In 2017, William and his wife, Jessica, welcomed their daughter, Juniper, into their family. While not working, William enjoys his family time and supporting his wife's efforts to make a more sustainable home. Here are a couple of videos that showcase some of the work that William has been involved in.
I made Joanna play this video, so it's my fault it's taking a little bit of time. And while she's getting that up, I want to thank all of you guys for joining this. It's a really cool thing to see you engaged in making your better future by finding out the experiences that the people that have walked this path before you have experienced. And hopefully we can check out a little bit about the Skunk Works.
Yes, thank you.
I remember driving up to this big hangar that's got the skunk slapped on it. And I remember all these like Joshua trees just kind of crawling out of nowhere. And you think that it's just going to be barren and it's going to be dusty and hot. And it's beautiful.
There's so many lessons that are learned, so much knowledge in previous chapters of what our company has been. There were a lot of generations before me that had a lot of great thoughts and a lot of great ideas.
We're typically asked to develop advanced technologies, capabilities that don't exist, that are of critical importance to our national security.
If you're passionate and you're committed and you share a vision, you can get amazing things done.
Being a part of this team that gets to innovate is an honor that I couldn't have described before coming and being a part of this.
All of us here want an idea and we want to run with it. And we want to explore every edge of technology and see if we can make it a reality.
This has been a dream of mine. I've been fascinated by airplanes, rockets, anything that'll fly since I was a little kid.
The logical place to come from is to talk about why it can't be done. But we take those hard problems and we get excited by them.
We're known for the disruptive systems that we've produced in the past, but also for framing the state of the art for the future.
There's always this sense of wonder about what the Skunk Works will produce next.
Wow, that was inspirational. I got chills just watching the video. It's just amazing to see where your dreams and goals have taken you, William.
Definitely. I get chills every time I've watched it, and I've seen it a dozen times. And that's how I feel every day I go into work.
Wow. And I just hope that inspiration just radiates throughout this entire event, because that's what it was for. It got me. So, they say if you get one, right?
There you go.
So I just like to ask, what was your experience like at Georgia Tech? And also, was that your first pick school, or did you have other universities in mind?
That's a great question. So to start, my experience at Georgia Tech was excellent. I started my college career, like many of you here on the call, at College of the Canyons, and I was astounded by the amount of resources that the college offered me as far as my engineering education. I mean, from Mesa and all the resources for tutoring to the kind of like lab equipment that they have. I mean, you might not know, but they have an atomic force microscope over there in Aliso Hall, among other things. Chemistry, working with radioactive material, and strain and stress labs, pulling pieces of tensile test metals apart. All these things were great and really kind of like added to the excitement every day that I was studying engineering. And then when I showed up at Georgia Tech, which is a preeminent research institution, and I like to highlight that at some point in the last 5 years, it was ranked number one for mechanical engineering in the country for undergrad studies. The resources just exploded. Like the amount of like advanced manufacturing capability we had access to, the kind of technical talent that was always kind of available on campus was just astounding. I mean, to put it in perspective, at some point during my tenure at Georgia Tech, I had the honor of representing the makerspace I was involved with in welcoming President Obama on campus. I mean, where do you get that kind of experience other than like a top tier university? So it was unlike anything I'd ever experienced, and I am so glad that I pushed to go to a university that was far away, that was outside my comfort zone, and had the resources to really expand my horizons. Now, how did I choose Georgia Tech? The simple answer is that MIT and Stanford said no to me. So Georgia Tech was way up there on the rankings, and I really based my decision solely on rankings. And so was that a great decision? probably not. But that's one of the things I like to talk to my the students that are matriculating about, and that is that it's really important that you understand if the school is going to fit you and the experience that you're trying to cultivate in your education. I got very lucky that the choice that I made, because I didn't tour any other campuses. Georgia Tech said yes, and I went. But I've heard horror stories of people ending up in universities and institutions that they really did not jive with. So I encourage you, go visit campuses, get a real feel for campus life, talk to your future professors. It's all really important to form the education that you want to have around your expectations.
Yes. It just sounds amazing, this entire process and journey that you went through, transitioning into your actual career. And I definitely would like to get some more questions answered by you a little bit later on in the session.
Absolutely.
Yes. So last but not least, our final panelist, Felicia Manning, I would like to just welcome in. She's amazing. Felicia is an award-winning director and writer. She launched Feedburn Films in 2015, a commercial production studio focused on brand experiences through storytelling. With a lean towards human interest topics, character-driven stories, and cinematic aesthetics, Felicia's work aims to inspire and push creative limits through film. As a creative director, she works closely with clients and agencies to develop creative concepts, original scripts, commercials, music, videos, short films, animation, and brand content. Managing all aspects of production from concept to execution, Felicia has worked with clients including SAP, Westfield, Microsoft, City of Santa Clarita, JetBlue, VMware, Relativity Film, and most recently, Pivotal Ventures, a Melinda Gates company. Felicia graduated at COC and has option feature and has an option feature-length screenplay in the early stages of development. Ooh, sorry about that. Here are a couple of videos to sample Felicia's work.
Okay, Google, I'm up.
Hello, Chris. The time is 6:15 a.m. Remember to pick up your tuxedo.
Y'all ready for prom tomorrow night?
Pretty much.
You're gonna look so handsome. Dad and I met at prom.
Yeah, I remember, Mom. Okay, Google, order pizza. Hey, Google, what's 18 times 21? What kind of flowers do girls like?
Roses are almost always guaranteed to be a hit. I've added balloons to your shopping list.
Hey, Google, tell Haley I'll be there in 10 minutes. Okay, Google, surprise Mom.
It seems like influencers influence you to do or buy something, whereas a role model influences you to be something. When there's a project that I'm passionate about, something like ethical fashion or social justice or equity in the classroom, and people start to change the way that they think about the world and their world becomes a little bit bigger because of something that I shared, that's what I want to do. You have to have empathy, you have to be open to new ideas, you have to be willing to learn every single day. Social media is a place where I can show people how I do that.
Wow, so amazing that COC has just helped cultivate such brilliance. I mean, you guys are really awesome. But a question for you, Felicia. In an industry that is full of unknowns and highly competitive, did you think at any point in your education and career going forward that you would be able to find a job in your chosen career profession? If so, what actions did you take to curb your hesitation?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm trying to think back to the early stages, especially with COC kind of being my entry point as the first college that I selected. I don't know if I had hesitations at the time. I was probably a little bright-eyed and bushy-tailed at the time, but I definitely reality set in as you kind of pursue your career and move forward. You do realize that it is really competitive, and it's every job that you land is a gift. To curb any hesitation, I mean, I'm the type that the more resources I have available, the better and more confident I feel as I move forward. So I would say that COC has an immense amount of resources and a ton of different instructors and people on campus that really want to support you and kind of help and cultivate your career as you go forward and give advice. And I really aim to take advantage of those things while on campus. So that probably always helps to fill any sort of void if you have like concerns about what the next steps may be.
Wow, that's just incredibly insightful, and I'm sure this is inspiring for our students who are pursuing a career in the arts. It really shows that you've done like you've really taken advantage of those resources and have really put them to use, and it's just impressive to see it all come together the way it has for you. While we're on the topic of asking more questions, I'd like to also ask you, what is the best advice you have ever received?
Best advice I've ever received. I mean, it's going to be hard to narrow it down, but I think if I would trace back to when I was a student, I was reading, I still read all the time. And if I could trace back, just to build creatively is to build your portfolio of work, like as much as possible, to constantly be creating and producing and shooting so you can get it all out while you're in school. So that by the time you enter into kind of the working force, you have something to show. And then something a little more practical came from a book from Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And another book I read for filmmakers is called Bankroll, and it's amazing. And they both, I'm sure he took it from Dale Carnegie, which is asking for 15 minutes of someone's time. That is something I used like directly in college, and especially using that position that I had as a student. People tend to want to kind of reach out a helping hand to students. And so all the time I would just kind of shoot out emails to like, can I have 15 minutes of your time? And it worked. People definitely responded and were really supportive at that time. And some of those small little conversations just kind of pave the way for you in little things that you just may not have known. And for one person to say one thing that can help you get one step ahead, that is really valuable. So in a sense, utilize your network, utilize your instructors, utilize anybody around you, and always have an open ear to learn and apply that to your personal goals.
Wow, yeah, that's awesome. That book by Dale Carnegie is actually one of my favorite books, How to Win Friends and Influence People. So it's really cool to hear you quote from that book. One more question for you, and I'll let you off the hook if you don't mind. But it's, what are 2 things that you would tell your younger self?
2 things I would tell my younger self. Number 1, I would probably say start sooner. In my particular field, you need to build up a lot on your own. And so I would say that, don't wait until you graduate to begin. Different industries are very different, but within the creative field, you have a lot of work to prove yourself. And so I would have told myself, like, start immediately, take yourself seriously immediately, position yourself in that way right away. And the second piece of advice I would give myself would probably be, don't go at it alone. I think within the creative space, sometimes you kind of assume that you have to do everything from start to finish, write, direct, produce, everything on your own. And I would have immediately told myself to utilize fellow students and peers and those that have the same dreams as I do that are very similar, and kind of align those groups and those mutual thinkers to help kind of project where I want to go sooner. So yeah, just not to kind of think that I'm in it alone, but that there's so many other people that are in a similar space, maybe some different vision. Maybe somebody wants to edit, maybe somebody's more excited about writing, maybe somebody's more excited about collecting funds for producing, and putting that all together to get started, and not thinking I'm a one-woman show at that age, at least. Yeah.
That's incredible, and I feel like I'm just keeping you on the hook, but it's I guess it's turned out to be a two-part last question, because I also like to add in there. So what do you think the biggest thing is that you learned about yourself over the years, from when you started your destination?
Biggest thing I've learned about myself. It's hard to say this, without, I want to definitely come across more, the humility comes with just a lot of hard work. And I've learned about myself, at least, that anything I set my mind to, at some point it's going to happen. Just being patient with the process, and also kind of removing a deadline of, when projected success is, if I don't do this by this age, and if I don't get this by this age. But I've learned to be patient with myself, and I've learned that if you have a clear plan, as much as possible, as much as you can map out the unknowns in your future and just kind of like get to the next point, you can do it. You just have to be really consistent. And I think that's something I've learned about myself is I'll be consistent. And if I'm going to achieve something, or if I have a goal in my career that I really want to work with that kind of client, or I really want to produce this quality of a piece, I'll get there eventually. And, just kind of staying true to the goals that you apply for yourself, especially when you're young. I think when you're young, I hope that you have the passion and the ability to dream a little bit and have some fun in that aspect, and to not doubt yourself along the way, and stay true to that. Even if it takes 10 years, 20 years, it doesn't matter. Just stay with it. And that's something I've learned about myself is I'm willing to stay with it. If I bring it up, I'm going to do it. If that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. And thank you so much, Felicia. You've been very patient with all the questioning, and I really appreciate everything you've said, and I'm sure the students do as well. And I loved hearing from Felicia about how Dale Carnegie was an influential author. And I was wondering if Stacie or William, if you guys could also share any significant influencers or authors or mentors that made a difference in your life when you were on your journey throughout college.
Ladies first, Stacie.
Sure. Well, I think a big influencer of me during college, I had the honor of being a student of Dr. Jim Boykin, or Mr. Boykin. His statue sits out there. Actually was in his class, unfortunately, when he passed away. And I got to see what an amazing man and what amazing things he did at COC. And then downline, I had one of my mentors who taught me when I was at Western University about pediatrics, because prior to pediatrics, I actually thought I was going to be an orthopedic surgeon. And he came in, and it was the light bulb that went on. And I was fortunate to work with him for 6 years before I decided to leave private practice and come to Kaiser. And then there's a man at Kaiser who is still working here in town, Dr. Hoffman, who kind of mentored me at being an osteopath and being here back in Santa Clarita and working for Kaiser, and just the paths they help you go down and to achieve those goals is just amazing.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, it does sound pretty amazing. The journey that each of you have separately, and it seems like you've always been aware of taking advantage of opportunities to get those influential messages deep into you, and you understood what they meant. And from the looks of it, you guys utilized them pretty well. William, did you want to also chime in on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in addition to the fantastic faculty at College of the Canyons who were always willing to help me through my academic struggles, I had two really crucial, mentors in my life that pushed me along into being a better person and a more academic person. The first is an associate professor of marketing at College of the Canyons by the name of Bianca Philippi. And she just happened to come into the coffee shop that I was working at while I was going to school. And she really, kind of helped me through some of the struggles I had, especially when it was like, how am I going to pay for a higher education? And, she kind of just said, relax, it's all going to be worth it. And that's just one tiny facet of all the help she gave me, but she was absolutely instrumental. And I would have never thought to look to someone teaching well outside of the profession I was focused on. But they're there. The beauty of College of the Canyons is that the faculty there, no matter who you are, is willing to help you. The second is, and this is gonna be a little gushy, but my wife, for always putting up with the fact that my growth takes much longer than she wants it to take, but she's still there and I'm still growing. So thank you for being patient. And I think I kicked her out of our small home office too, so I have her to thank for that as well.
Wow, that's really incredible. I mean, it's not that gushy. I mean, I'm sure she appreciates you saying that, and we get our motivation from many different aspects, so it's all good with me for sure. All right, this is kind of like a general question for everybody, so feel free to just chime in one at a time, or pick order. Really doesn't matter. But since it has been confirmed that most of the students will be remote for the spring semester, what are some words of motivation that you can give to our students them through this challenging time?
I'll pick this one up. So forgive me for jumping in here. I too am a remote student working on my master's degree, and man, we have got it tough. It's really rough right now. So I just want to say that, what's really important is finding some aspect of your academics that you are passionate about, and really just dig into that to maintain your motivation. Find a passion project. It's really a good thing.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like really good advice. I mean, I hope that everybody utilizes that advice. Felicia?
We're currently all working from home right now as well. And I think maybe also, staying focused on like exactly what William said, being focused on a certain aspect of your education that does inspire you. And also maybe even a more practical piece. Sometimes we're just changing up the scene within our own space, working outside and just finding new ways to kind of make the day kind of flow by. And finding that time for yourself. I mean, I know this could feel like you probably have a lot of time for yourself right now, but, staying active, taking walks, like physically moving, because that can help you, stay inspired, physically getting out and about as well. And then coming back in with kind of a new focus on what you have to tackle during that day. And also cultivating a community, like, try, maybe picking up the phone and calling someone or FaceTiming, just to kind of connect with, like, we're in this together, and there's another student and there's another friend of yours in your class. I know you can kind of grow more distant, and social media is only so much of a layer of connection, but there's nothing like talking one-to-one. So if you can just jump on a hangout with a few friends or something, that's honestly great, because, we need human connection. That's really important.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be some pretty inspirational stuff said here today, but I did not expect to be blown away like this. You guys are really giving great advice, and I really appreciate that. Dr. Gereb, would you like to add in on that, or?
I think socialization and having those people that you can have some, if they're part of your group, one-on-one, otherwise through social media. But also, I think keeping, again, the forest through the trees, just know what your goal is, and that's a big driving force of it all. I know we're all working through different things, whether, I'm lucky enough to go into the office, but it's a different kind of situation than it was pre-COVID, and so it's all different. We're all learning. My kids are doing Zoom meetings just like we are, and we're all having to figure out how do we best get through this all, and hopefully we'll see the end of this sooner than later, and we can go back to some normalcy, whatever that happens to be. But just knowing what your goals are and being able to try to stay focused. And if that means taking a deep breath, going for a walk, doing those kind of things, but yeah, just having people you can bounce different ideas off and keep moving.
Wow, that's incredible stuff. And all you guys out there, this is advice from a doctor, so we should take it. Get out there and get up and walk. Stay connected. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that, Stacie. It was awesome. So do you have any tips or advice for students who have recently graduated or are going to graduate soon in regards to what they can do to make themselves more competitive in landing a job? That's the general question too. So anyone could feel free to answer that.
As a doctor, mine's more of a plug-in situation. So, I mean, you go through med school, you go through residency, and then finding a job. And so it's a little bit different than what the other two are going through. I have maybe a little easier in that I have a place where you can plug into, but certainly it's a different world out there. But it's nice to know that there was something on the back end of that, and I didn't have to hop all over to find something.
What other jobs did you consider? I mean, because a lot of students go back and forth and they change their mind a bunch. They don't really know where to go most of the times. And so did you consider any other jobs before you made your final decision?
Well, you talked about those curveballs before. When I graduated from UC Irvine, I did not get into med school. My first route through. My MCAT scores or the entrance scores weren't good enough to get me into a med school. So I was initially going to get a second degree from UC Irvine and found a quarter into that I really didn't like the major, and I actually moved home and went back to COC, took more classes, worked, and reapplied, retook the MCATs and upped it up, and so that I could go. I actually applied to dental school because I wasn't going to take another year out of my life, and got accepted into dental school. But when I finally got into medical school, it was something that, my dream. And so I had a place to go, but I did apply to dental school, and I was going to be a dentist if I didn't get in.
Wow, I think that's so important that you brought up that that you said that one part about how your grades weren't good enough to get in med school, and that's kind of something that I wanted to touch on for all students out there listening to this today. Like, what is something that you do to get through that stressful time when your grades aren't hitting where you want them to, or when you have a bad test and when you feel like it's over, that you didn't have the grades that you wanted at a certain time?
Oh boy, I can take this one.
Yes.
You know what they say,
please.
C's get degrees.
Okay, there we go.
If you don't know, Georgia Tech has a bit of a reputation for being a meat grinder. It's a school that really punishes students just in the simple goal to produce the best engineers that they can. So many times in my tenure in my undergraduate degree, seeking my undergraduate degree, I had to make choices like, do I want to do this homework or this homework? And most college students are like, do I want to go to this party or do this homework? So we didn't really have that. And there were a number of times where I just had to say, you know what, I think my grade can suffer in this class, and I definitely need to work on the knowledge in this other class. So it became a really important skill, because that kind of prioritization that happens there really translates well into the workplace. When I have deadlines and I have different priorities that I have to do in my professional life, being able to go back in that skill set was a really nice thing. But yeah, I wouldn't sweat bombing out a test. I mean, I can remember very vividly a fluid dynamics test where the class average, all 30 of us, we were at about a 30%. So that wasn't curved. Everybody was crying, but we all bounced back.
Wow, that's incredible, Williams. I mean, I really appreciate that you jumped in on that question, and I hope Felicia and Stacie feel comfortable jumping in on that question too. But yeah, engineer major is kind of like all we worry about is grades all the time. I think I don't know if it's just an engineer thing, but it's always kind of scary. So thank you for that. if anybody else would like to add to that, or I can move to the next question.
I think we've all gone through periods of time when, our stuff wasn't as good as we wanted. And when I was at UC Irvine, I worked 30 hours a week to pay for my college. So not only was I a pre-med student pulling 15 units at a time, I was also working 30 hours a week to pay for it. So I think the first time I didn't work in my life was when I was in med school. And so I had a lot of fun my first year in med school, 2 years of med school, stayed really busy, played softball, worked out, did all that stuff, and about failed out of cardiology and had to relook and come back and refocus and come back down and do that stuff. But you learn to prioritize time and do all of that kind of stuff. It's just like being a student athlete. You learn you have time management that you have to do different things, and you buckle down. And when I didn't pass my boards my first time out, I took courses. I learned to read a textbook from cover to cover. You do what you need to do to get to the back end of it.
That and that's why you're a doctor. Thank you so much, Stacie. It's amazing that you say that, because a lot of us don't know. Well, like myself, if I do bad on a subject and things like that, I kind of just tell myself like, oh, I'm gonna get better next time. And but I understand, and even more that you solidified this, that you have to do things to get better. You have to actually go and do something. Like you say, you read a textbook from cover to cover. So that's just impressive to show that it does take a lot of hard work. It doesn't just happen. So thank you.
I'm just refreshed to hear this from William and Stacie, because when I saw I was going to be paired up with a mechanical engineer and a doctor, I was like, oh wow, what an amazing company I'm in. But yeah,
secretly you're the one I got most excited about, though. I'm like, a director. So this is pretty impressive. All of you guys are equally impressive, and it's just amazing. But Felicia, now that you're back on, I have a question for you. You have a great career history of accomplishments. What motivated you to go out on your own and become an entrepreneur and work independently within the arts?
I think I realized early on that it wasn't a career choice where I felt that I could easily land a job at the time. I was a little bit more broad. I knew I wanted to direct, I knew I wanted to write. And a lot of filmmakers, we start off thinking, feature film, like that's the way to go. But, as you progress, you realize that is a marathon and it takes a long time. So I kind of trimmed it down to like, what can I do to get behind a camera? And so really when I first started, I didn't even have gear. I didn't have anything. COC has an amazing amount of gear, by the way. You can rent everything while you're a student. So if anybody isn't filming, you can go rent, take advantage of the gear. But I borrowed gear from different friends that I knew owned cameras and things at the time. And early on when I started, that wasn't always so accessible. And I just went to 4 businesses and asked them if I could film them for free. And they said yes. And, I told them, if you like it, if you don't, but, if I can please use this in my portfolio of work. Those 4 projects led to kind of like the next step of one, and somebody seeing those and saying, oh, I like your work. Do you want to film this for me? And I was also just shooting out a lot of emails and just, I kind of always had that type of thinking of how, if I could just let people know, like, I'm here. And eventually that somehow worked, that somehow worked. Just starting off with those initial companies and letting those businesses giving me a chance when I had nothing to show them really. And that led to the next job. And then you learn a lot on the way. You're like, how can I position myself? Because when I'm seen as just like Felicia Manning, that changes the budget rates. And I don't want to get too detailed on everything, but that's where I'm like, I need to start a studio. I need to open up something to kind of align with some of the larger clients, because they're used to seeing other production companies at this scale. And so all of that was like learned along the way. And I think I knew I kind of wanted to do my own thing early on, but it's also a risk. I mean, there's a lot of, you don't know what's going to come next at, in the early days. And, you kind of learn as you go.
Yeah, I could just tell you really did read that book cover to cover, Dale Carnegie's book. I mean, how to win friends and influence people. And you really have done some pretty cool footwork and just schoolwork, and it's just amazing the way you utilize COC in your benefit. Really impressive. Let me ask, if you could do things differently, any one of you guys can answer this question, but if you could do things differently, do anything in your life differently, what would you do? Would knowing what you know now and having the experiences that you have, would you change anything?
Yeah, absolutely. Change things. I think there's an old Chinese proverb that is really relevant to that. It says the best time to plant a tree is 100 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is now. So do things, just go. And I should have started earlier. And so if I can't change the past, so I'm going to start doing things now.
Absolutely. That's just awesome. It seems like we think a lot in many different ways. So it feels like I'm on the right path. I mean, if I could go back, I would definitely have started earlier, like probably elementary. Mom, I want to be an engineer. But I just want to say, guys, that this was very informative and inspiring. So I know that our students will definitely benefit from this. To our 3 guest speakers, I mean, thank you for coming out and just for sharing inspiration, just pushing us past this pandemic. I mean, one step closer out of it, giving us motivation and hope, and for all the support you gave us, just showing up. I mean, out of all the things you guys probably have to do today, and making time to just give us hope and encouragement, it's beyond appreciated. So I'll just go ahead and close up now and just
real quick. There was a question in the chat that may help some people about the getting letters of rec. I think that becomes very important. I'm sure for William and Felicia, it's much easier to get letters of rec from COC because you've got small, intimate classrooms. You've got the people that you've got counselors, whatever. When you get to the university, it's a whole different ball of wax. When I got to UC Irvine, my smallest class, other than one class of 26 people, my next smallest class was 126. Most of my class were 450 students in the lecture hall, other than my lab. So getting to know a professor and getting a letter of rec is a lot tougher at the university setting than it is at COC. So cultivate some relationships and see who you can get out there. But you go to the office hours of your professors and stuff and get to know them, because those letters become very important when you're applying for things.
I totally want to parrot what Dr. Stacie is saying here. With COC, the professors there, they're not doing research to the best of my knowledge. So their whole focus is improving the academics and lives of students. So it's a great resource to get some letters of recommendation. Some of the things that you may not know about letters of rec for grad school is that you don't get to read them, which was a surprise to me when I went to go get mine. And there's a reason for that, and that's so that the professors that are reading the recommendations of other professors have this intimate trust where they get to, the professors writing your letter of rec is going to be brutally honest about you. They want to talk about your shortcomings, because those are the kind of things that graduate school will look to say, we can improve this in a person. So be prepared to select a professor that has a good enough relationship with you that they know all facets of your development, including your weaknesses. The other part of that is that I think it's really important to when you get to your undergraduate, the final undergraduate school that you choose, you should develop relationships, like go do research, or go find some really something that a professor is researching, and see if something tickles your fancy, and go do it, and use that professor as a resource. So education is really what you make of it. You can go and just like do the bare minimum and go through classes, do the assignments, and get that piece of paper. That's easy, but really you're paying a good deal of money. So you should get everything you can out of it, including the time of very busy people. So I think Felicia had talked about this 15 minutes, like asking professors for 15 minutes and getting them to open that door and recognize your passion is a good way to start that relationship, and then continue it on. And professors are always looking for young minds to mold and to have them have you help them develop new innovative ideas.
And if I can also add one point too, I mean, this is a very different world we're in now, but I think we can remember being in the classroom and everybody just clears out as soon as it's done. But take advantage of having one-on-one conversations with some of your professors that you admire. You know, I know you can kind of get into the motion of like, I'm out, I'm in, I'm out. But I have professors, instructors at COC to this day that I stay in contact with. And, you know, one early on hired me on one of the productions she was filming on, and I really appreciated that. Another, years later, when I was in a crunch, I needed somebody to read a certain type of script. She was willing to do that. And so to this day, they've been mentors and advocates of mine. And just having those conversations, it does make you stand out to stop and hold on a Zoom call and just be like, can I have a moment? Or, you know, and ask them in advance so everybody knows we're kind of like done right now with all the Zoom calls and everything, but just be alert of when you kind of reach out and just have those conversations and kind of share your story a little bit and see how they can help you. And also your fellow classmates, because, you know, I think sometimes we think networking is like going to an event and like walking around and like meeting someone. That's very rare that does benefit. It maybe at times if you're fortunate, but it's really those that are directly kind of in the ranks with you that whatever they're pursuing, they may go into a company and they remember, Felicia, you were into film. Are you still doing that? And just maintaining that connection, because it's all of those friendships over the years of your life that will build into opportunities as well. Not that you're looking at friendship as an opportunity, but when you develop a caring, true, authentic connection with someone, they will remember you and they will remember, you know, what you're pursuing, kind of watch throughout the years to support. People are genuinely pretty good. Maybe I'm an optimist and they do want to support you along the way as much as they can, if they can.
Yes, that's super amazing advice. I mean, it's just you saying that you know how to stay after class and how beneficial it is to actually get that one-on-one time with the professor. I think that was one of the things that I spoke about in one of the ASG committee club meetings that we have. Is just, you know, building a relationship with the professor and getting involved with the campus is super important to college success. At least, well, that was just my opinion. So I'm glad that you actually affirm that, and it makes me feel good that, you know, I'm thinking in the right way. Just one more question, if I can quickly get it in, is what student organizations did you guys participate in, if any, when you were pursuing your educational goals? Did you guys join any clubs or participate in any clubs?
Mine is brief, but I don't recall necessarily the clubs, but I did jump into like a lot of internship programs. So a lot of my early internships were directly from COC. They had a huge book at the time. They would just pop it open, which now is probably online, but they just found all sorts of production opportunities. And those are some of my early jobs. So there's definitely, COC is beyond resourceful. So I think if you haven't found that department, maybe to jump into that.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, everything that you guys said here today is amazing. Oh, were you gonna say something?
At COC, I was part of the Judiciary Committee and did some stuff with that. Irvine, it was too crazy hectic. I didn't get much involved there. Once I got to med school, then I was ASB vice president. I belonged to numerous organizations at different leadership levels and stuff. And that continues. I was lead of Pediatrics. I think getting involved is very important in all aspects of whether it's your job, your school, whatever. It buys you things. When I was trying to get into residency, I happened to have done a rotation at Children's LA, and I started playing softball with their team, and that's how people got to know me. So they knew who I was and helped me get a position at the hospital. So any of those kind of things help, and staying involved and seeing people again with letters of rec or whatever, it helps.
Yeah, I had to kind of add on to that and say that my extracurricular experiences, at COC, I was part of MESA, and that was more to help me study and to put me in a cohort of students that had like-minded goals academically. But when I got to Georgia Tech, I kind of fell in love with this makerspace, which COC has. It's a prototyping space where you can go and take raw materials and make it into something awesome. And it just tickled my fancy. It was so important to me that it actually became like the highlight of my academic experience, where it's one of the number one things I put on my resume. It's why I've been hired in a number of roles, because when I got passionate about it, all of my educational experience was able to be funneled into this one extracurricular where I could build a great portfolio of experience. So yeah, extracurriculars I think are why you do why you choose certain universities. So again, it's one of those things. Look at the school you want to go to and see if their extracurricular organizations align with your goals.
Thank you so much for that, guys, and thanks again for putting that aspect on it, William. So I never really thought of choosing a university based on the extracurriculars. We always think about just the ranking and stuff like you said earlier, but it makes it more understandable when you say pick a school that's based off of things that you like about yourself and how you can see yourself navigating throughout your career and stuff like that. So that's really helpful. I'd like to just thank all of you guys for coming out and taking your time to share your story with us today. And to everyone who has joined us today, we appreciate your support, honestly. Please remember to follow us on our social media page for updates on all our upcoming ASG events and helpful info about what is going on locally. Thank you guys for letting me speak, and I really appreciate all your patience with me today, and I'll give it back to Charlene.
All right. Well, again, we want to thank you and also want to remind you of a couple of things. As I mentioned earlier, I am serving as a co-chair of the Alumni Network. So we want to encourage you to utilize what you registered on today was actually an intro to our Alumni Network, which houses places that you can connect with other students and also other prospective mentors in your field or your potential field. In addition, we have a mentorship program that we want to encourage you to get connected with. And if you are interested in trying to be mentored by someone in the business community, connect with James Knimlick because we are working heavily on doing that. The other thing I do want to highlight is 3 other areas. On the campus, we have our Cooperative Work Experience program, which is our CWE program that offers internships. We have our financial aid. So if you are going to transition on and you need that support, you have a wonderful financial aid department, and then our career development, our career services. So be sure to tune in because there are so many resources on campus. And serving as a foundation board member and former alumni from COC, I can't tell you, COC is definitely a family. And like everyone highlighted today, so many of us reach out to those instructors that are consider our family. So we want to thank you and we want to keep you involved, and hopefully one day you'll turn around and be able to serve in this capacity as well.